Welcome to this presentation on power searching. I'm Margaret Clark, and in this presentation we'll learn how to construct efficient, effective, and powerful search queries to maximize the number of relevant results with the minimum amount of time. To start with, you are probably aware that there are basically two types of database searches that you can run on commercial services such as Westlaw and Lexis. The easiest is natural language search, which is probably what you're most familiar with from Google searching. The other type is a terms and connectors search, or also known as Boolean searching, which allows you to specify the precise relationship between the search terms. With a natural language search, you can simply enter the plain terms or phrases or even whole sentences, and the database will return results they consider to be the most relevant according to their own algorithm rules. Using a terms and connector search requires some knowledge of how to construct a Boolean phrase, but it will allow you to find all documents containing your terms. The natural language search is a good way to start research. It offers an advantage over Boolean searching when you're unfamiliar with what terms or jargon relate to the question or the proper way to state the legal concept. The natural language search can be less precise because the researcher is not specifically directing the relationship between the words. A disadvantage of natural language searching is that it will always return a standard number of results. In contrast, Boolean search always gives you exact number of results that meet the search criteria that you used. This is useful because the number of results will show whether the search terms should be modified, because they return either too few or too many results. You may be wondering why we even bother to teach terms and connector searching when natural language in Westlaw and Lexis is so much easier. In the terms and connector searching, you have more control over your search terms and precisely how they'll show up in your results. You will feel more confident that you are finding all of the documents with your search terms. Because you don't have to pore over thousands of results that don't answer your question, you'll be more efficient. Combine this precision with efficiency, and you're spending less on a research project. Constructing a search query involves 5 basic steps. In the next few slides, I'll go through each of these steps in depth and show you how to construct a viable terms and connector search. Articulating or identifying the issue is usually the very first thing that you have to do in any research project. This is the foundation for all the steps that follow. To identify the issue, read your fact pattern and the call of the question. Pick it apart and consider the who, the what, where, when, and how of the issue presented by your facts. If your issue isn't clearly expressed, chances are your research will be just as imprecise. Here are examples of some clearly stated questions that will frame a good research strategy. Can a lawful permanent resident be deported for committing an aggravated felony? Does a judge have the authority to reduce a sentence? Our second step involves generating search terms from the legal issue or fact pattern that you came up with. What are the important words or concepts? For the first question, let's identify the key terms. Possible search terms are lawful permanent resident, deported, aggravated felony. In the second question, possible key terms here are judge, authority, reduce, and sentence. So at this point, you could just run off and run these terms in a database, but chances are you will miss a lot of relevant results. So we'll need to come up with related terms or synonyms for each of these terms. Coming up with search terms is a common stumbling block for students. Let's take one of our previous issues and brainstorm together as many related terms. If you want to supplement your brainstorming with other tools or resources, so much the better. The more related terms that you come up with, the more likely you are to find documents that will help answer your question. A regular dictionary or thesaurus are great tools, and so is Black's Law Dictionary. Besides the print sources, you can look to either dictionary.com or thesaurus.com on the web. And Black's can be found electronically too in Westlaw. Just start typing in the title in the search box and Black's Law Dictionary will be automatically suggested. Or if you are in one of the content areas like statutes or cases, look to the far right column to find a link to the dictionary. Lexis has its own dictionary called Ballantyne's. If you start typing that in the search box, the title will also come up. Having used Black's Law Dictionary on Westlaw, I came across the term court as a related term for judge. Black's tells me that judge is often used interchangeably with court. Now I can use judge or court in my search query. Besides the term authority, I can use the related terms discretion, right, and power that Black's Law Dictionary helped me find. Besides the term reduce, I can use the synonyms lessen or shorten, and I used Google to help come up with terms here. By adding the command define immediately before a word, Google will find a definition of that word. I might also use the term judgment as a synonym for this term sentence. The art of searching lies in understanding how your issue is likely to be expressed in the documents found in a database. It requires just a little creativity to brainstorm related terms, but you have to have lots of helpful tools that you can turn to make it easier. After identifying search terms, you'll also want to consider the various forms that some of these search terms could take. For example, the term reduce may also be expressed as reduced or reducing or reduction. The term shorten may also be expressed as shortened or shortening. So we could just add these terms to our search query, but you can see that that's going to get cumbersome in a hurry if you had to do that with each and every term in your search string. Luckily, there's a solution: truncation. Truncation uses wildcard characters to replace part of a word with a symbol or a character so that all the varying forms of the search term are retrieved. Let's review how to use wildcard characters to substitute a combination of letters. A common wildcard character in Westlaw and Lexis is the exclamation mark. It will find all the words with the same root stem. Truncating the term deport by placing an exclamation mark after the root deport will retrieve documents that have the terms deported, deportation, and deporting. But be careful with truncation. Sometimes the root expander generates too many search terms that may not even be related to your concept, as in this example where tax exclamation mark retrieves tax, taxi, taxonomy, and taxpayer. The asterisk is another wildcard commonly used. It's also known as a universal character. If you place the asterisk in the middle of a word, it represents only one variable. KN asterisk W will return the words know and knew. If you place it at the end of the term, it will specify the maximum length of that term. For example, host with 3 asterisks will locate words with the root word host plus 1 to 3 more variable characters, as in hosted, hostess, and hosting. You can find variations of terms even without typing in a special character. If you enter the singular form of a term, Westlaw and Lexis will automatically retrieve the plural and possessive forms. But if you enter the plural form, only the plural is retrieved. Here's our previous example. Truncating is useful because we don't have to spell out every variant of our terms over and over again. You should use truncation routinely. Be aware that Westlaw and Lexis will use truncation symbols in different ways, as will other databases. Databases from various vendors, library catalogs, and search engines may use special characters in different ways. Use the help feature of any database to find out exactly how to use those wildcard characters. The librarians at the Research Center have compiled a cheat sheet to help you keep track of what characters to use with the more popular databases used by law students. So there was a lot to step 2. Let's recap. In generating search terms, we want to identify related terms or synonyms with the aid of dictionary or thesaurus. In this step, we will also identify and use variations of those search terms by truncating word roots and employing a specific wildcard character. After identifying all the terms we want to use and their variations, we're ready to choose connectors, so the computer database you are searching will retrieve documents with the terms in the way that you specify. For example, you can specify that your terms appear anywhere in the document or appear more precisely in the same paragraph or the same sentence together, or even as a phrase. There are 3 types of connectors: Boolean operators, proximity operators, and phrase searching. Much of the searching that you'll conduct in databases, including all the legal databases, are based on the principles of Boolean logic, which refers to logical relationships among search terms. There are 3 Boolean operators. They are and, or not. Proximity operators specify how close terms within a document must appear. Phrase searching helps us locate strings of words in a particular order, like duty of care or child support. And operator finds all documents that include 2 or more terms. Both terms must appear in the document. Here's a diagram that illustrates how Boolean operator and works. Suppose we're looking for articles that have to contain both terms supermarket and negligence. One of the circles represents all of the documents in a database that have the term supermarket in it. The second circle represents all the documents with the term negligence. The place where they overlap, that shaded portion of the diagram, represents all the documents that include both terms, supermarket and negligence. The more terms that you and together, the more narrow the search becomes and less results you'll receive. Remember one of our previous search examples where we wanted to find out if lawful permanent resident can be deported for committing an aggravated felony? Constructing our search using the Boolean operator and lawful permanent resident and deport and aggravated felony will pull up documents that have all 3 terms together in one document. The OR operator finds documents with either or any of your terms. Continuing with our example, the search judge or court will pull up documents with the term judge, documents with the term court, and documents with variations of both terms. The more terms that you OR together, the more documents you find. So when you use OR, you expand your search. When you use the operator not or but not, you essentially find documents that find the first term but not the second. When you search capital not gains, your search results will include only those documents that include capital. Any documents with the word gains is excluded. Documents with the words capital and gains are excluded. And just to be clear, you don't need to capitalize Boolean operators in order for them to work. They're only capitalized in this tutorial to make them stand out. And is assumed as a default operator, which means that the database or search engine automatically puts an and in between each keyword in your search. Both Westlaw and Google use and as a default operator. That means you don't need to type the word and. Because and requires all the connecting terms to appear, it limits the results we'll receive. Because or requires any of the connecting terms to appear, it expands our search. And because not eliminates specific words from our search, it excludes documents in our results. If you're constructing a search with more than one type of Boolean operator, though, and that will happen a lot, you will need to use parentheses to control the order of the search. And let me show you why. If we have the following search, car or vehicle and getaway, you might easily conclude that the database will first resolve the first 2 terms and then the next term and logically interpret it like this. Given this visualization, your results would include documents that contain either car or vehicle, and they must all include the term getaway. A database, however, may process that same search string differently. It may process the last 2 terms first, in this case, vehicle and getaway, and then find the documents with car. We can visualize this search as you see in this diagram. Each database uses its own processing rules for combining terms. You can read the help screen to find out which rules the database uses for combining terms, but that can be an inefficient way to figure out what the rules are for each database. An easier way is to just override the database rules by using parentheses. The parentheses forces the database to group the terms the way that you want and not the way the database wants. If we were to put parentheses around car or vehicle, This forces the database to first find documents that include either the term car or vehicle, and then from the results of that grouping to find documents that must also include the term getaway. In our second example, when we put parentheses around vehicle and getaway, this tells the database to first find documents with both terms, vehicle and getaway, and then to resolve the rest of the search. The results will include documents that contain both terms, vehicle and getaway, together in the same document, as well as documents that include the term car. Chances are you would want to construct your search as in the first example. If you have more than one set of parentheses, the database will resolve them from left to right. Here's our previous search example. Does a judge have the authority to reduce a sentence? My synonyms or related terms are connected with or because I want any of the terms judge or court, any of the terms authority, discretion, right, or power, any of the terms reduced, lessen, or shorten, and either the term sentence or judgment. Because I want documents that discuss all four of these concepts and their related terms, will connect them with and. Because I'm using a combination of Boolean operators, we'll construct a search query that looks like this. Now, let's look at proximity operators and phrase searching. Beyond Boolean operators, some databases will allow you to conduct a more nuanced search using proximity operators that connect your terms and specify how closely they should appear in relation to each other. You can tell a database not only to search for words anywhere in the record, but in proximity to each other, such as within the same paragraph, within the same sentence, and within a certain number of words. If you simply search for aggravated felony in most databases, you can get records where those terms appear anywhere in the record. Bracket your phrases with quotation marks to retrieve only those records that include the full phrase. By putting aggravated felony in quotation marks, we weed out all the useless stuff. One very specific operator or command that often is overlooked by students is the at least command. It is a command that's used to require a word or words to appear a minimum number of times in the document. You can use the at least operator with both Lexis and Westlaw, but you can't use it in combination with Boolean operators. The higher the number, the more times a term will appear in your document. The more times it appears, the more likely it is that the document will have a greater discussion about your term and more likely be relevant. Our fourth step involves the option of restricting our search to specific parts of a document, such as title, author, abstract, or subject fields. Documents in most databases are broken up into parts or divisions such as author, title, subject, or even location. Specific parts of a document are usually called fields, except for Lexis, which calls their parts segments. You may want to restrict your search so that the terms appear in specific parts of a document. The documents in Westlaw databases are also made up of different fields. In a cases database in Westlaw, you can see the document made up of the citation field, party name field, document number field, and synopsis field. Sometimes a combination of fields are put into one, so you can search several fields at one time without having to name each one. For example, searching the synopsis field in Westlaw will simultaneously search the background and holdings field. Searching the digest field will simultaneously search the headnote and topics field. To access field searching in Westlaw, you'll have to use the advanced search feature. Doing a search in the synopsis field in a cases database will yield less results than doing a natural language search, but often it leads to more precise results and less false positives. Here's an example of a Lexis Advanced document. As mentioned earlier, they call their divisions segments, and the segments have different names compared to Westlaw. Instead of a party name field, we have a name segment, and the summary segment combines the history, disposition, and core term segments together. To search by segments in Lexis Advanced, be sure to first select the content type, whether it be statutes, cases, or other content, because each content type has different segments. Then select the Advanced Search. Although we won't find documents containing as many fields in a Bloomberg Law document, you still can search by topic, industry, party name, and others. Last of all, you'll want to refine your search. The first search is rarely the perfect search. Research is an iterative process. You must search, review the results, modify the search, review the results again, and repeat until you are satisfied. If you get too many results, narrow your search by any of these methods. By adding more terms together using and, removing synonyms. These are terms that you've connected with or. Make some of your terms appear closer together. Use the at least command. And also limit to segments or fields, search in headnotes or key numbers, and limit by the most authoritative jurisdiction. If you've gotten too few results, broaden your search by any one of these methods as well. I hope I've convinced you on the necessity for using well-constructed terms and connectors searches. I like to use the analogy of driving two kinds of cars and conducting two kinds of searches. The comparison between a manual versus automatic transmission is similar to a terms and connectors search versus a natural language search. In a manual transmission, you'll shift when the conditions of the road require it. Similarly, in a terms and connectors search, you are in control of your search terms and precisely how they'll show up in your results. Cruise control may be nice and easy, like Google searching, or a natural language search in Westlaw, but it doesn't give you a lot of flexibility or control. Yes, manual searching, manual transmissions, like terms and connectors searching, is a bit more complicated. There are some rules and strategies to employ for effective searching. And yes, just like manual cars, terms and connector searches require practice to master. It doesn't take that much practice, though, to learn how to drive an automatic. Manual transmissions and terms and connector searches are usually more efficient. And people who drive up steep slopes or race cars and want to win drive manual cars. If you want to win, learning this skill will put you in the driver's seat. Thanks for listening.